stories you are about to see are real. The rewards up to $5 million are real. This is Crime Reports and Rewards with Griff Griffin and Dave Michaels, where you stay anonymous, the criminals don't. I'm Dave Michaels with this Crime Reports and Rewards special report. To start off, on behalf of all of us at Crime Reports and Rewards and Augusta Crime Stoppers, I'd like to wish all of you a Happy New Year. And this report will cover events of 2013. On the heels of the Sandy Hook shooting, we started the year with gun owners fighting for their right to continue to own firearms. First off, we'd like to say on behalf of all of us at Crime Reports and Rewards, our hearts and prayers go out to the family and friends of the people killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Now, there are those that call gun rights activists heartless because they are more concerned with what this event will do to their gun rights than the kids murdered. But gun grabbers have also wasted no time using this tragic event to advance their agenda.
Yes, if we reduce the number of handguns in America, we would have less murders.
We have to do more about guns and weapons.
For too long, the gun control movement has been made up of only victims.
The state of Connecticut already has certain gun control laws in place, at least 3 of which the shooter broke, as he could have only obtained the weapons through illegal means. Like all other mass murders, this one took place in a gun-free zone.
Gun-free zones, that's one of the most amazing crocs I've ever heard. You think about where these awful mass shootings have occurred. You look at Columbine, well, wait a minute, that couldn't happen. That was a gun-free zone. Look at the post offices. Oh, well, wait, that can't happen because that was a gun-free zone. Every single one of these mass shootings has occurred in a gun-free zone.
The gun grabbers said, "We're not out to get your guns. We just want to register them." Then they turn around and say, "Yes, we are out to get your guns."
California Senator Dianne Feinstein worked for more than a year to get the assault weapons bill passed in the face of ferocious opposition from the National Rifle Association. She says she got the best she could.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it. I could not do that. The votes weren't here.
Then the Obama administration was caught using the IRS to spy on conservative groups. The IRS scandal has not only put the virtue of the White House on the line, it has also weakened the White House argument on gun control.
Right, really quickly, Sam. let me tell you personally how this impacts the debate.
Yeah.
I have been saying for months now that, and everybody knows this, that I believe we need background checks.
Yeah.
I believe we need, after Newtown, after Chicago, we need background checks. My argument has been, don't worry, background checks aren't going to lead to a national registry. The government's never going to create a national registry, right?
Yeah.
And there's even something there that says it's a felony if you get... I don't have to even complete my sentence, do I? My argument is less persuasive today because of these scandals. Because people say, well, hey, if they do that with the IRS,
That's a
asking
really,
people what books you read,
good point.
Yeah.
then how can I trust them with information about my Second Amendment rights?
Which is why the IRS...
This is devastating. This IRS scandal is devastating all across the board. As Chuck said, immigration reform, background checks, you name it. It's a devastating scandal.
Let me just say this. I think you're absolutely right. I think it feeds into this notion that either government is inept or it's corrupt. And, it's hard for me to see how the White House gets out of this without coming off a little bit damaged in their other elements of legislation. I will say this. With respect to the criticism of the White House, there's 2 threads of them. One that we're hearing from House Republicans is that there's the arrogance of power. And the other one is that Obama wasn't there in absenteeism. Those two don't actually, they compete with each other.
But I hate to see something that's actually criminal.
See, I've had some of the gun
pro-gun lobbyists on here saying to me, well, the reason we need to be armed is because of tyranny from our own government. And I've always laughed at them. Sure. And I've always said, don't be so ridiculous. Your own government won't turn itself on you. But actually, when you look at this, it's nothing to do with guns. But actually, this is vaguely tyrannical behaviour by the American government. I think what the IRS did is bordering on tyrannical behaviour. I think what the Department of Justice has done, actually, to the AP is bordering on tyrannical behavior.
There's no doubt about that. Once you use the word bordering, that's true. And I also think that it shows you how much we can trust the government and just sit back, which is not very much at all.
In the wake of the tragedy in Aurora, Colorado has passed some of the strictest gun measures in the country. But in recent months, an overwhelming 55 of the state's 62 county sheriffs have joined a lawsuit aimed at blocking the measures. Sheriff John Cook.
It's what I've learned, and most law enforcement have learned, or most sheriffs at least, is it's not the gun, it's the person. And we need to hold the person responsible. And it's unfortunate that the governor has flip-flopped on that, because usually what happens is we have knee-jerk reactions and call for all these gun control laws. And we need to step back and take a look and say, what is the real issue? Is it mental health? Is it domestic violence? What caused this? And not do a knee-jerk reaction. So I think that's what we've learned in Colorado. So I was glad to hear what the governor said initially, and very disappointed now to hear that he is thinking about flip-flopping and trying to come up with gun control laws.
This ultimately led to a defeat in the Senate of the advanced gun background check.
On this vote, the yeas are 54, the nays are 46. Under the previous order requiring 60 votes for the adoption of this amendment, the amendment is not agreed to.
Other events from the year 2013 include the bombing at the Boston Marathon. And George Zimmerman was found not guilty of the murder of Trayvon Martin.
In the Circuit Court of the 18th Judicial Circuit in and for Seminole County, Florida, State of Florida versus George Zimmerman. Verdict, we the jury find George Zimmerman not guilty.
That verdict led to a number of hate crimes committed by blacks against whites, including some locally.
Now for what many Crime Report fans have called two hate crimes. On Thursday night of May the 2nd at around 11:45 p.m., a resident of Beach Island was leaving the Riverfront Pub at 531 Broad Street and walking to his car when he was assaulted by an unknown black male who, after he gave his car keys to, beat him viciously. The victim had visible injuries to his face and head and was found to have sustained a serious brain injury. Taken from the victim were his keys to his 2002 Hyundai Sonata GLS. On Friday night, May the 3rd, at about 11 p.m., a couple from Edgeville, South Carolina, was sitting on a bench on the 700 block of Reynolds Street on the Riverwalk when they were approached by two black males who were armed with an aluminum baseball bat or pipe. The suspects were described as tall and slender black males with short dreads wearing all black clothing. The suspects demanded and obtained money from the male and female victims, then continued hitting both the male and female with the metal object, striking them in the face and head after the victims gave the black males what they asked for, only because the victims were white. The male victim, who is a volunteer fireman, suffered serious brain injuries which may cause him to suffer permanent brain damage, which typically leads to strokes and serious lifelong side effects. Both of these attacks are suspected of being thinly veiled hate crimes because both attacks singled out a minority in a city that is predominantly African American. Yet these assaults were on selected individuals who are the 33% minority in Augusta, and both assaults were performed after the assailants got what they wanted from their victims, then continued beating them viciously only because they were white, which is the definition of a hate crime.
But the worst of the hate crimes was one known as the knockout game. Here's Griff Griffin.
Reports are pouring in from all over the U.S. that thugs are sucker punching people for the fun of it. So far, all of the attackers have been black males or a black male walking behind a group, which so far have been all black males. The game they're playing is a game they call the knockout game. Black males are targeting other races that they hate or just perfect strangers that they see an opportunity to knock out, then sometimes rob. Now, groups of typically young black males get close enough, they try to knock out anyone they can with a sucker punch that no one would ever expect. So far, several victims of this hate crime have come forth, and surveillance video is all over YouTube under the title, The Knockout Game.
But the question of race, I mean, frankly, so far it's been African Americans, as far as I can see, on whites. I don't know if it's completely that way, but that's what we've seen.
Well, that is true. That is exactly what you're seeing. And this talks to the state of depravity that is in the black community right now. And again, where are these black leaders that should be talking about this breakdown? Where are the parents? Where are the guardians of the black community to say, this is unacceptable behavior? Now, this is what's going to end up happening. At some point in time, one of the people that's going to be attacked is going to have a concealed weapons license. And they're going to draw down, and unfortunately, someone's going to get shot. Then what is going to happen? You're going to hear all of the rhetoric coming out from the Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons, that this unarmed black teenager was shot and killed and assaulted, when right now they should be out there stopping this so we don't get to this point.
Because the knockout game is spreading everywhere, don't let thugs get close enough to sucker punch you. If a group that looks like they're up to no good approaches you on a street, get to the other side or duck into a storefront and get ready to defend yourself. If they get close enough to sucker punch you, they may and are on video doing just that. They think it's funny. No one is laughing. Share this with everyone you can before they knock you out, and you can't. If you suspect a group or individual is planning on running around sucker punching people, please call your local law enforcement or call Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tip to 803-441-8744 or email your tips to tips@AugustaCrimeStoppers.org, where you can remain anonymous, but the criminals don't.
In 2013, Crime Stoppers' own Griff Griffin completed the Citizens Police Academy.
The program got started earlier this year to bridge the gap between the community and law enforcement. This is the second graduating class of Richmond County Citizens Police Academy. The first class graduated in May. The program gives citizens a better understanding of law enforcement and also promotes teamwork between the sheriff's office and citizens. I was quoted as saying, "The CSI class was fascinating because we saw how the CSIs really work, and we met the CSIs that actually do it. So we learned how to take better fingerprints and find all kinds of clues." Over the weekend, the students learned how to fire weapons and also learned how the bomb squad works. I was quoted as saying those parts of the program are fun to learn, but the most important part is building a relationship with local law enforcement. They want us to tell as many people as we can how the police work, what the police need, and why they do what they do. Several students say that in Richmond County there is a misconception about police officers, but they're hoping that will change. Citizens Police Academy graduate Ronaldo Wolfert said, "You know, a lot of kids are running from the cops just because they showed up. A lot of times they just want to talk to them or just come up and say hello. But when they run, and then when you run, the cops are going to chase you." Since taking office in January, Sheriff Richard Roundtree has been promoting community policing. He also expects his deputies to have one-on-one contact with residents. So far this year, crime numbers are down in several different categories, so some people say the program is working. It seems to be working out very well, especially when we have the graduates go back into the community and they tell their friends and their families about their experiences, and invite them to come and join so they too can have a better understanding and appreciation for what we do as deputies. Captain Wendy George said, "The next Citizens Police Academy is scheduled in March. If you're interested in the program, you can apply by going to the Sheriff's Office."
Many complain about the Affordable Health Care Act. Complaints from it's not affordable to it's not even about health care. But the biggest complaint was the website. It's a hacker's dream.
Computer experts confirm our worst fears about the Affordable Care Act website. If you put your information on it, you may be handing hackers everything they need to steal almost everything of real value you own, including your credit.
Well, I was contacted by the House Committee on Energy and Commerce. They're the ones that oversee the Obamacare package. And if I would come out and basically oversee some of the changes and give them input on what needed to be done. I said, sure. Then they added, but we can't pay your expenses or anything. The government is shut down. And I'm thinking, well, you pay $600 million to a completely inoperable agency to build this system. I said, okay, well, I'll pay my own way. And they said, okay. And then they came back and said, well, we can't even get the committee members all together because, again, the chaos of the shutdown. Can we do it on the phone? And at that point, I go, okay, I'm out of here. They expect me to give them advice on a system that requires showing them charts and graphs and how this thing is put together and what's wrong with it, and they want to do it over the phone. They're not serious. They just want to say, we contacted McAfee, he gave us some advice, and we're going to implement it, which is utter nonsense. They're not. My advice would be, throw it away and start over. You cannot fix the system that's there. It is impossible. The way it is architected, any good programmer will tell you, it's just not going to work. And they can pour money into it, another $50 million, another $100 million. It will never work the way that it is. It needs to be redone.
Well, that's our year in review. I'm Dave Michaels for Crime Reports and Rewards and Augusta Crime Stoppers, wishing you a Happy New Year.
Now for video of the suspect in the Ralph Harrell murder shooting at the Scottish Inn. The attached video shows the murder suspect walking with an unknown white male just before the murder occurred. Richmond County investigators are seeking the public's assistance in identifying the black male who is the murder suspect and also the white male who is the person of interest. To recap, on Sunday, December 29th at approximately 0044 hours, the Richmond County Sheriff's Office received a call to the Scottish Inn in reference to shots being fired, located at 1079 Stevens Creek Road, Augusta. Upon a deputy's arrival, it was discovered that a black male, Ralph Harrell, 40 years of age, had been shot. Harrell later succumbed to his injury at the scene. The case is currently under investigation and more details will be released when available. The Sheriff's Office is asking anyone with any information on this incident to contact the Criminal Investigations Division at 706-821-1020. Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744 or email your tips to tips@AugustaCrimeStoppers.org where you can remain anonymous and get paid. This is Richmond County's 19th murder for the 2013 year. If you have any questions or information on this case, ask for Sergeant Michael Shane McDaniel Sr. He's the Richmond County Sheriff's Office Internal Affairs Public Information Officer. The Richmond County Sheriff's Office Criminal Investigation Division is investigating an armed robbery at the Huddle House located at 2526 Tobacco Road. On Monday, December 30th, at approximately 2110 hours, Richmond County Sheriff's deputies answered a call to the Huddle House in regards to an armed robbery. Upon arrival, it was learned that an unknown black male wearing black jeans, a white shirt, and a black ski mask entered the Huddle House brandishing an unknown type of handgun. The male suspect demanded and received an undisclosed amount of cash. The suspect then fled the scene in an unknown direction. There were no injuries reported in this incident. If you know who or where this armed robber is, please call Investigator Freeman at 706-821-1080, Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS, or email your tips to tips@AugustaCrimeStoppers.org, where you stay anonymous, but the criminals don't. The Richmond County Sheriff's Office reports an Augusta woman is recovering from a home invasion after two males broke into her home on Windsor Springs Road, ripped her stuff apart looking for valuables, forced her to take off her shirt, and then tied her up before getting away. The victim reports that she thought she was really going to die. She tells police and the press that two men kicked in her door and stormed into her house. At first she thought it was just her brother or dad, but soon learned that wasn't the case. She reported that she was getting up to check what the noise was about, but before she could get out of bed, they had come in her room with the gun. She says the first thing they did was go for the guns hidden above her chapeau, breaking the piece of furniture below it. With weapons in her face, she says they started making demands. He pointed at me and told me, "Don't move," and demanded cash. As she feared for her life, they went room to room as the men searched for items to steal. She says, "I was shocked. It's scary because the whole time he was taking me around, he kept telling me I was lying about not having any cash, and he told me he was going to kill me if I didn't stop lying to him." Eventually, they realized she wasn't lying and decided it was time to leave, but not before the suspects made sure she couldn't follow them. "I had a clothes hamper here, and they just grabbed some shirts. I think it was some long-sleeve shirts, and they tied my arms and then tied up my legs," she said. The incident report also states that they made her remove her shirt, lay down on the bed, and push the gun to her head, threatening her life several times. It's a traumatic memory still fresh in her mind that's now turning into a warning for others. "At this point, I think they've been watching me. I think they kind of knew my routine, so especially around this time of the year, just kind of vary things up a little bit," she suggested. One suspect was wearing a nylon stocking over his head, the other a bandana covering his face. Deputies say they escaped with 3 guns, including a shotgun, some jewelry, and several electronics. If you don't have a reinforced door and you've been the victim of a home invasion, Crime Stoppers wants to reinforce your door so home invaders can't so easily kick down your door and violate you again. If you think you know who or where these two well-armed, mean, and nasty home invaders may be, please call Major Scott Peoples at 706-821-1080, Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS, or email your tips to tips@AugustaCrimeStoppers.org, where you can remain anonymous and get paid.
And now, this Crime Reports and Rewards special report.
On May 18th at approximately 3 p.m., dispatch issued a bolo for a white Honda Civic that was occupied by 3 black males. The suspects were wanted for a robbery and shooting that had just occurred in Beach Island. Upon learning that the vehicle was in the Delta Manor neighborhood, Lieutenant Jimmy Wilds responded to and saturated the neighborhood with deputies from A South. Within 4 minutes, Deputy Langford spotted the vehicle, and upon the initiation of a traffic stop, the 2 passengers in the vehicle fled on foot as Deputy Langford took the driver into custody. Once Deputy Langford advised of the situation, a perimeter was immediately set up. Deputies Capitosti and Beasley began a building-by-building search and were able to locate and arrest a second suspect that was hiding in an abandoned shed on Green Street. Deputy Ashmore located the weapon that was used in the robbery and shooting and $975 in cash that was taken during the robbery. Due to the quick actions of everyone involved, 2 of the 3 suspects were quickly apprehended after being involved in an armed robbery that resulted in a homicide. Lieutenant Jimmy Wilds, who's not in the photo, Deputy Thomas Langford, Deputy Robin Ashmore, Deputy Todd Beasley, Deputy Wes Stallings, Deputy Brad Capitosti were each awarded a certificate of appreciation, letter, and gift card from Chief Patrick Clayton. If you see these deputies, tell them Augusta Crime Stoppers salutes them for their hard work. Good job, everybody. Thank you for being the best.
And now, this Crime Reports and Rewards special report.
Recent shootings sign of growing gang violence in Richmond County, police tell the Augusta Chronicle's Bianca King. Authorities say they fear that the recent slaying of a teen points to growing gang violence in Augusta. Gang graffiti was spray-painted at the intersection of Loftwood Drive and Brookshire Road. Investigators estimate that Richmond County has several gangs. Dijon Cortez Abbott, 17, was charged with murder, aggravated assault, and a weapons violation in a fatal shooting in July on East Kensington Drive. 19-year-old Marquez Eubanks died after being shot at that house party on East Kensington Drive on July 18th, and 2 others were wounded. The man police arrested in that homicide, Dijon Cortez Abbott, is a member of the South Augusta Gang 23rd, which is warring with another gang called 600 or 600. Lieutenant Jason Vinson, who worked with the FBI's gang unit before coming to the Richmond County Sheriff's Office, said shootings related to gang activity have become more frequent and are escalating more quickly from physical fights to gunfire. Vinson said he's seen gang members getting more brazen about their allegiance recently. Instead of hiding the gang colors, they're flaunting them and getting t-shirts and hats made to show that they are gang members. The number of gangs in Richmond County is not clear, investigator Ashley Fletcher told the Augusta Chronicle. Every little or big neighborhood seems to have one, she said. Most of the gangs are comprised primarily of teens, but some of the more established ones have older members who are related to the younger ones. Barton Village's OWTT, or the O-Dubs, have been around since the 1990s and is one of the largest. The parents of the grown people I was investigating would claim to be members, Vincent said, of the group that is estimated to have more than 100 gangbangers. 2 of last year's homicides were determined to be the result of gang activity. Donielle Hicks and Trumaine Jones were both fatally shot at the River Glen apartments within a month of each other. Police said the second death was retaliation for the first. Some of the gangs are considered smaller chapters of larger national gangs such as the Bloods, Crips, and Folk Nation. Devon Harris, who meets and speaks with gang members across the Aiken and Augusta area, says sometimes the only thing standing in the way of someone leaving a gang is finding steady employment. But dealing drugs or stealing items to resell are sometimes easier for a recovering gang member than moving on. Up to 75% of crime in any city is gang-related, Harrison estimated. They have to survive. Richmond County Sheriff Roundtree said he's working to create a gang task force that can prevent criminal activity. One of my main goals is to prevent young men from entering into crime or winding up in prison or dying in the streets, Roundtree said in an email. We understand that youth violence is a major problem in our area, and for years we have seen a steady increase in gang-related incidents. Our goal is not just to stop the cycle, but to break it. If you know of a gang crime, please call 1-800-222-TIPS or email your tip to tips@AugustaCrimeStoppers.org or text your tip to 803-441-UP-HIGH. Where you can always remain anonymous, the rewards are up high, and you tell Crime Stoppers how you want to be paid.
You've been watching Crime Reports and Rewards with Griff Griffin and Dave Michaels, where you stay anonymous. The criminals don't. If you have any information on these or any other crimes, call our national tip line at 1-800-222-TIPS. Well, you'll stay anonymous and could get a cash reward. You can see this or any other episode of Crime Reports and Rewards on the web anytime at crimereportsandrewards.com. Crime Reports and Rewards is a production of Michaels Media.